This is Richard Blade, the voice of the 80s and gay rock radio, and you're listening to the voice of 91 Reasons, Jeff Tucker. Totally awesome.
When I started 91 Reasons, it was, for personal reasons, to talk about things, to have a platform for my movie reviews and stuff, and how it's changed over the it's almost a year. We're not at a year yet. We got a couple of months. But how it's changed is what people want to get out of the show, or they have ideas for shows. My brother just sent me a text that contained, 15 different movies I need to watch and then review. And I'm like, Jim, I am only one person. I have a job. I have kids. I can't sit and do movie reviews all day as much as I'd like to. That being said, I got an email yesterday from somebody from Back to the Future. I know, Back to the Future. But Jeff, isn't that your favorite movie trilogy of all time? Why, yes, it is. And somebody from the movie contacted me, Jeffrey Weissman. Now, Jeffrey Weissman played George Mcfly in Back to the Future 2 and 3. You see him upside down in 2015. He's the one where he goes, Grandpa threw his back out. How do you do that? On the golf course. Well, you're right. And it's not Crispin Glover, but it's an incredibly smart thing to do the filmmakers did. I talked about this on the Back to the Future episode. Putting him upside down and making him old, you're not really sure who it is, other than, to Jeffrey Weissman's credit, it's George McFly. It is George McFly. It's the character that we have loved from the other movie. He's old and he's upside down. So Jeffrey Weissman took on a pretty tough role of an iconic character, and he's stepping in the shoes of somebody else, and kudos to him for stepping up and giving a really fun performance. And then the shot at the end of part 3 where he comes out, it's, how I always tell you that I use Back to the Future lines in my real life, they're just part of my vernacular. And his line of, have you seen my glasses? Every time my family goes somewhere and everyone's headed to the car, I say that. And it's become a running joke with my kids. They just laugh because they know what the reference is. My wife will go, you're wearing your sunglasses. I go, well, I'm not asking where my glasses are. It's part of Back to the Future. Have you seen my glasses? So when Jeffrey Weissman sent me an email, I didn't know what to do. He wants to come on the show. He wants to talk about this big project that he's working on. And it's funny because it's a project that I already knew existed. It wasn't like, I'm reading this for the first time. Oh, there's a Back to the Future cruise? No, I was like, oh my God, this is that cruise I'm thinking of going on. This is that cruise that my friends Tim and Monique are already going on. So, in having Mr. Weissman on the show to talk about the cruise was like, yes, of course I have to, yes. And then as soon as I sent him the email that I would have him on the show, I had to sit down and figure out, well, how am I going to get him on the show? Because I'm not a Skype guy. I don't know how Skype works. And frankly, when I've heard podcasts that use people on Skype, it doesn't sound very good. It sounds like they're at the bottom of the ocean trying to bail themselves out. So what I did was I spent last night, and my wife can attest to this because it was very frustrating. I went through about 25 different cell phone recording programs till I found one that would record both sides of the conversation, and more importantly, allow me to email that as a file, as an MP3 or a WAV file, so that I could drop it into the show. So thankfully, I was up late. I was calling my wife every 10 minutes and doing tests, and I apologized to her for screaming and yelling because it's very frustrating. But I got it to work, and I was able to have nearly a 45-minute conversation with Jeffrey Weissman, who was in Back to the Future 2 and 3. Oh my God. Is that the greatest thing ever? It's like, oh, hold on, Leah Thompson's at the door. Well, tell her to wait. I've got Jeffrey Weissman here. So I'd like you to listen to my conversation with Jeffrey Weissman, who played George McFly in Back to the Future 2 and 3. We're going to talk about his career, all the amazing things he's done, the ways that our paths have almost crossed as sort of working on similar projects or knowing similar people. Like, it's very interesting how small the world really is. Like, I found out he knows a guy I work with at Knott's. He knows a guy named Scott. And when I looked at Jeffrey Weissman's career, and I saw that he's portrayed not only Stan Laurel, but Groucho Marx, well, of course he knows my friend Scott. Because Scott Ratner, all he does is live life as Groucho Marx and all of that classic film comedy, those legends. So it's a small world. It's amazing, and I'm happy to present my conversation with Jeffrey Weissman to plug the Cruise to End Parkinson's Back to the Future cruise. And I'll be back after the conversation to go on and on about the cruise itself. This is Jeff Tucker. I'm the voice of 91 Reasons. And as you guys know, listening to the show, I'm a huge, massive Back to the Future fan. So I am excited to welcome to the show the first legitimate guest. I'm not saying that the guys I had before weren't legitimate, but this guy's part of the Back to the Future film series, Jeffrey Weissman, and you played George McFly in part 2 and 3.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm a big Back to the Future fan too.
Yeah, no, the movie just captivated me. I went as a young 13-year-old. I went blind to the movie. I had no idea what it was even about. And I walked out just mesmerized by what film can do and what screenwriting and, situations. And then, that carried me 4 years. And when the sequel was announced and the trailer started showing up, I was there. I was there midnight showing at Universal City Walk to be the first people to see it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, when that first film came out, the same way. The writing, the acting across the boards just was fantastic. And ironically, a year before the first film came out, I had worked with Crispin Glover on a film at the American Film Institute. So I knew him and knew his acting and thought he was fascinating. And there he was on the big screen. I was like, I know that guy. Good work. I was really impressed. Yeah, there's also that Lloyd great. I'm sorry? I was saying also Christopher Lloyd stole that film, I thought, with his amazing comedic chops. Not to mention Michael's and Leah's.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's also that great story of Michael J. Fox filming Teen Wolf in Pasadena. And 2 or 3 streets over, Crispin Glover is filming Back to the Future with Eric Stoltz. And Michael J. Fox told his agent, why can't you get me on a movie like that?
Yeah.
And it's just so funny how life works out. Now, I've been looking at your IMDb page, and you flirted all over the place with you were in really well-known movies, Twilight Zone the movie, and you were up for the lead role in War Games when it was in pre-production.
Yeah, well, it was called The Genius, and Martin Brest was the original director. Yes.
Oh, Martin Brest, fantastic director.
He really thought the agents that pursued me told me that I was his favorite for the lead. I had gone with a friend to an open call, thinking that my friend was right for what they were looking for, and they liked me. And they had open calls in 5 major cities. I think I was the only one to get a screen test from those open calls. All the other actors that they tested, Ali Sheedy that day, came in through agents. So I was very fortunate. I felt really great. Unfortunately, things chemically weren't happening with Ali Sheedy and I realized during my test, Eric Stoltz was hanging out. And years later, I ran into Eric and I said, "What were you and Ali like an item during that period?" Because he and I tested, with her. and I noticed she kept looking through me, and when I looked over, there was her on the soundstage. And he said, "What year was that?" And I said, "About 82." And he said, "Yeah, we were living together."
Living together. Oh, wow. You can't compete with that. Not if he's walking across the room.
I don't want to say that, I lost it because she didn't connect with me well, but there was something just a little bit off, and I don't know if that showed up on film. The camera can't lie. So I was like, And
yeah,
anyway, Eric didn't get it. I didn't get it. Matthew got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. It's always interesting to hear the behind-the-scenes stories of who might have been and who could have been in movies. And obviously...
A year later, the same type of thing, I was on my way to test for the lead in Lady Hawk. And really, as I locked the door to go to Warner Brothers for my screen test for Richard Donner, my phone rang. I went back inside, and the agent said, Matthew Broderick just came down and his price of the screen test is off. And I was like, no!
Oh, the same guy.
I had done a lot of Renaissance fair and Shakespeare and was really to rock that script since it was medieval times, and was very disappointed I didn't get that one. But eventually started working a Twilight Zone movie with John Lithgow, George Miller's episode, the recreation, the remake of Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, was my first co-star role in a film.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a fantastic segment in a movie. Where that little girl keeps screaming, "No smoking! NOSMOKING."
Yes.
Yeah, I know. 91 Reasons is a show that was created because I'm obsessed with late 70s, early, all through the 80s movies, early 90s. And because I was a complete dork in high school, I didn't go on dates. I had a Betamax, and I watched movies over and over. Twilight Zone the movie was one of those movies. Now, you were also in another movie that I binge watched, which is Johnny Dangerously.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I had a little bit part there selling the I Heart Johnny t-shirts in the scene where Dom DeLuise is the Pope, and I had a really great time on that set, hanging with Michael Keaton and Maureen Stapleton, who was just fantastic, as well as Joe Piscopo. Had a nice time with him, chatting with him for hours.
Yeah, I did an entire hour episode on Johnny Dangerously, and
nice.
It's one of those movies that it didn't click with audiences. I think it was ahead of its time. I think that people weren't ready for a bizarro gangster movie, but in hindsight, that and a movie like Top Secret, they've gained cult followings because people are like, wow, I can't believe nobody went to see this movie. It's fantastic.
I have a little bit of trivia you may not know. Did you know that Johnny Dangerously originally was a musical?
Was it really? I had no idea.
Yeah, I had to make my living at that time doing casual gigs, often as a caterer or a waiter or what have you, and I couldn't take the time off to go to the wrap party at 20th Century Fox for Johnny Dangerously. I ended up actually being a waiter at for the caterer for the wrap party. And
oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I was served Amy Heckerling her drink and gave Michael Keaton his drink, and he looked at me and he looked over at Amy and said, "Wasn't he in the film?" It was very funny.
Oh, that's so funny.
But it was at that wrap party that they showed the musical numbers. Maureen Stapleton had the soul number while she was ironing and singing and dancing, and Joe Piscopo and Michael, they were okay. They weren't really great, and I think the only musical number that stayed in the film was Mary Lou Henner's.
Well, yeah, naturally. That's one of the highlights of the movie.
She was a doll. She later showed up on a commercial I worked on because she was dating the director of that, and she kind of settled my nerves, took me aside and said, "You're doing a great job," because I had to get all this amazing dialogue down into first 15 seconds, then down to 12 seconds, and then 11 seconds. I was like, oh, nuts. Real grind. But Mary Lou was a sweetheart to me and helped me stay centered.
Yeah.
So, you should back up a little bit, because I was in films in the late 70s, not as a co-star or really a featured player, but I wanted to get my feet on some sets, on some big movie studio sets, and just did some background work in films like The Rose and FM and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and Fast Break. Those films were fairly popular in the 70s.
Right, and I'm also looking. You were in I Want to Hold Your Hand.
As a Ringo fan, yes.
Yeah.
The big scene outside of the Beatles hotel where the kids are trying to break in.
Yeah.
And it was a big crowd scene, of course, and I think Zemeckis didn't know quite how to handle the crowd, so Spielberg actually came in and directed us.
You're kidding, really? Oh, that's fantastic.
And it was probably 100-degree day in Burbank, and it was supposed to be January in New York, below freezing.
So you were all bundled up.
Well, everyone's bundled up, and there were people dropping like flies.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it was. It was rough that day. Actually, a few days. I think I spent a few days on that. But yeah, that takes me back. Oh boy.
Yeah, I went through my period too, where I did some extra work, and as much fun as it was, and it's great to see yourself on the screen or on a DVD now. It was just too mind-numbing at that point for me. There was too much downtime and too little action. And
see, I found bringing a good book or a backgammon set.
Yeah, exactly. I did a day on Ed Wood, the Tim Burton film, and there was so much downtime that I read Interview with a Vampire in one day while sitting there because there was really nothing else to do,
Yeah, and you're not treated very well as an extra. I've just really seen with the demise of the Screen Extras Guild and the onslaught of, I don't want to say unscrupulous, but a lot of producers do not treat extras with much respect, especially big crowds.
Yeah, no.
Getting a peanut butter sandwich, it's, I don't know. The pecking order, yes, is a reality, but treating people with respect is very nice. I've seen ADs or assistant ADs just treat the extras like cattle, and it's not very nice.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. I did a day on Beethoven's Second. We were supposed to be at a carnival, and they were using my car in the shot. So at one point, one of the guys was so rude, I just said, you know what, I'm just going to leave. I don't need this. My car's here, because everybody else had been bussed in. So I was like, I don't need this anymore. But I'm also looking like you also have been in the theme park industry like me.
Yes. Well, I was in between jobs. I had worked on Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood in 84, it came out in 85, and had done a few more small roles on television, some commercials and such, and was in between jobs, good paying jobs. I had a recurring role on a TV show called Legman that unfortunately got canceled. I had a few things that looked promising, but nothing really panned out, so I needed some work. And a friend of mine had called me up and asked me if I had ever played Stan Laurel. I said, no, but I could use the work. What's going on? So I went and auditioned to play Stanley Laurel's Laurel and Hardy up at Universal in Hollywood. And the actor who was playing Oliver Hardy knew my work from a production where I had played Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet. And he turned to the boss because I was not doing it right. I was not playing Stanley right. And he said, yeah, I know he's wrong, but I know he's got talent, and I'll whip him into shape. So this later became a very close friend, Beavis Staversham, who played Oliver Hardy, taught me the ins and outs of playing, a lookalike of Laurel and Hardy, and adapting it to theme park environmental work. And I, of course, in my studies, fell in love with the genius of Stan Laurel. I just couldn't believe that he often wrote, directed, and edited their films, and would only get one credit because of Hal Roach's contract with him. So through that work, I became friends with Lois Laurel, Stanley's daughter, and the Sons of the Desert, which is the Laurel and Hardy fan club internationally. It's been very good to me. I worked from 87 to about 2001 at Universal Studios.
Wow, that's fantastic. And you were involved in the opening of the Universal Studios in Japan.
Yes, I had been hired to direct the Hollywood High Tones as their doo-wop group there, and also I directed the Blues Brothers show and trained all of the lookalikes, the Charlie Chaplin's, Clark Gable's, Marilyn Monroe's, Mae West's. Then also I found while I was there that no one had taken the fuzzies, the bodysuit characters under wing. These little Japanese kids who were playing these characters had never seen Rocky and Bullwinkle or Popeye or what have you, and I jumped through hoops to get videos and to train these kids and also train them in safety and so on and so forth.
Well, from experience, I can say that's tough work. So that's fantastic, especially getting a brand new park open. And they have the Peanuts license over there, correct?
Yes, yeah. In fact, my friend, the late great Kent Elofsson, he designed all the gifts in the Peanuts shop there, and they had this little Snoopy land, and it was really quite fun, quite quaint.
Oh,
the Japanese did it top notch. In fact, that was $1 billion theme park back then in 2000, 2001, and some of their rides and exhibits and such were just so exemplary. There was a live animation theater, Woody Woodpecker animation theater, where this mad scientist, the premise is the mad scientist is going to be sucked into cartoon land and see what it's like to be a cartoon. And it backfires because Woody Woodpecker is mischievous, and Woody comes into human land and wreaks havoc right and left. And the effect is just remarkable. It looks like Woody is actually flying around the room and tearing up the place, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful show, which I don't think they have here in the States.
No, that's the Woody Woodpecker Animation Celebration. And the only reason I know it is that the company that built it, BRC, Bob Rogers Company Creative, they had to do a test show to prove that they could make Woody Woodpecker actually exist in the physical world. And I was the guy who did the test show.
Oh, fantastic. So you know.
Yeah, I know. There was an issue of Fun World that came out when the park finally opened. And to showcase the attraction, instead of putting the Japanese actor on the cover of the magazine, they put me on the cover of the magazine, and I had nothing to do with the actual park itself. They just happened to have a really good picture of me being attacked by Woody Woodpecker. So I never actually got
to see. Jeff, did you ever get to see the a video of what you did so you could see how the effect came out?
Yeah, I saw it, on YouTube, and I was blown away because all we did was a very rudimentary, like a minute and a half with only like 15 or 16 seconds or less of animation because this was all hand-drawn Woody Woodpeckers, very expensive. Right. And this was
it's like living Roger Rabbit. It's like, seeing Bob Hoskins in the film.
The company that created it built Mystery Lodge at Knott's Berry Farm, which I currently supervise. So they needed somebody who understood how the effect works without having to explain it, because it's very difficult to act with it because there's a way you have to present your body to make it look convincing. So I was one of the only people, in the entire Western United States that knew how to do that. So they brought me down, and we did the test show, and seeing the finished product was just it was mind blowing because the BRC so cool. people, they're so talented. So it's my little piece of USJ, even though I'm not involved in the park at all. I tried to get them to take me over to train the actors, but they didn't go for it.
Oh, they should have. So for your listeners who don't understand what we're talking about, the actor is in an environment that has special effects in it, drawers that might open or cabinets or things that might fly and so on and so forth. And the audience is actually on the other side of either a screen that you can see through or a window or something that they can project up onto. And the animated character is projected in, but the actor who can't really see the animated character has to be very precise in their movements and also face forward and be presentational, like in old Commedia dell'arte, talking to the audience, even though facing the audience while talking to someone right next to them. Or, it's a juxtaposition to give the illusion that there's either a character there and you're feeding the audience.
It's quite difficult to do it convincingly, but the right people can get in there and really make you believe that what you're seeing is actually happening. Fantastic. And
you would have been impressed with the Japanese talent. They really were exemplary. Just the superlatives that rained down on them enough. It was really fantastic. As well as the theme park itself was gorgeous. It's just a delightful theme park, very, very efficient in its use of area. They did an art direction job beyond belief. I mean, Universal Florida is very nice, and Universal Hollywood is okay, but Japan is exceptional.
Yeah, well, they did have the luxury of being able to start from the ground up, because the one in Hollywood here has always been kind of squeezed together because it didn't start out as a theme park. They didn't have,
Right.
It's like Knott's Berry Farm. The theme park just sort of happened by accident.
I also played other characters in the park. The fellow who had been playing Charlie Chaplin there forever kind of was insulting, I thought, to Charlie. He didn't wear makeup, and he wore shorts and striped socks, and he had a funny act that he borrowed from a mime at Marineland. But he wasn't doing justice to Charlie, so I started putting Charlie's costume and researching Chaplin and playing him, and then of course that inspired, luckily, the other performer to pull his act together, and he got a lot better. So I became the second string Charlie Chaplin for many years, and as well Groucho Marx. Started playing Groucho in the theme park as well.
Those are great. I think it's fantastic that they keep the classics, the people that comedy was film comedy was born with, and they do keep them alive. And it's nice to see that still goes on.
Oh no, but it's not. Unfortunately, some of the young executives that are now in charge don't see the value in the older movie characters. So if your listeners think that the greats, the legends should be repped, they should write the studios, and hopefully it'll get up to the mucky mucks up top who don't find value in Chaplin and Laurel and Hardy and Mark Starr.
That's unbelievable. You can't progress if you don't remember where you came from.
Yeah, though, I understand that, the Spider-Man made so many millions and millions of dollars, or Transformers have, and so they want those characters in the park, or, but the parks are international, and while I worked there, I learned how to greet in about 15 different languages, because from all parts of East and Europe and Asia and really all over the world, even Latin American countries and elsewhere, they knew Laurel and Hardy right away, and they knew Charlie Chaplin right away, partly because, well, sure, they did silence, but also Laurel and Hardy did about 36 of their shorts phonetically in 5 or 6 different languages.
Did they really?
Yeah, after they'd shoot a scene in English, they would then bring in the Spanish cast, the French cast, the German cast. I remember seeing Boris Karloff in one of the stills from the French version of Blotto, a Laurel and Hardy film, because he could speak French. And I was like, well, there's Boris Karloff. And anyway, so these Germans would come up and speak German, and I would, quickly learn to, use as much German as I knew, or the Spanish would know, because, either these folks or their parents turned them on to Laurel and Hardy in Spanish. Every once in a while, AMC or Turner or someone will do a marathon of the Spanish Laurel and Hardys, and if you get a chance to see them, they're unbelievably funny, because Stan Laurel would get the reins on directing more. Hal Roach didn't mind so much to let Stanley have more leeway. And there are scenes in some of those shorts that are not in the American versions or the English versions that are incredibly funny and much more cartoony or slapsticky because he had free reign.
Oh, that's fantastic, and isn't that the lesson learned, that sometimes if you let the talent take over, you get a different result? I mean, look at what Chaplin did when he finally was able to direct his own films.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. The documentary The Unknown Chaplin is so worth seeing. A lot of the footage that he wanted to have destroyed actually was secreted away and shows up in that documentary.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's isn't that the message of Hugo, the Martin Scorsese film, where they'd rediscover George's films, from the Earth to the Moon and such. Yeah. So you actually have a massive project on the horizon here. You've created a Back to the Future cruise.
Yeah, about 10 years ago or so, the Back to the Future movies have been so good to me, and the fans have been so good to me that I want to give back and create something that would be hopefully ongoing, or if not ongoing, at least a once-in-a-lifetime experience, if it's a one-off. And I had friends who had been on Star Trek cruises, and I knew there was a Doctor Who cruise. I contacted a gentleman who had been producing one of the Star Trek cruises for many years, and he's basically, when I pitched him my idea of a Back to the Future cruise, he said, "Yeah, you should forget about it. It's too much heartache and too you're going to be in over your head." And so I put it on the back burner. And a couple of years ago, I called this guy again. I said, "I still want to do this and make it a fundraiser for Michael J. Fox Parkinsons Research Foundation, because really it's all about Michael. He's just such a great guy, and everyone likes Michael, and we want to help him and help the cause and find a cure, raise awareness, and so on and so forth." And when I called this cruise guy, this agent who I had spoken with before about the Star Trek cruise, he said, "If you're going to do it, I'll help you any way I can. My dad has Parkinson's."
Oh, so he's got a personal connection.
He has a personal connection. I have a personal connection. My dad's, during his dementia and Alzheimer's, his best friend has Parkinson's. One of my dear friends right now has just recently learned he has the terminal version of Parkinson's. Everyone, and once again, comes back to the common denominator of Michael. And so I put it out there to members that I know that might be interested. There's certain ones, like Leah doesn't do boats. Bob Gale won't go on a big boat. But I put it out there also wanting to offer a laurel branch, bury the hatchet between the producers. I invited Crispin Glover. I invited Spielberg. Those that have responded so far. I've got about 8 of the cast and crew members committed to coming on board. And there's going to be amazing things, surprises, and behind-the-scenes things that people have not seen or heard about. Example, Andrew Probert, who was the original storyboard artist for the first Back to the Future film, he has put together a PowerPoint presentation of the original way Marty got back from 55 to 85. Mr. Trivia, do you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the Boomtown sequence?
Is that it? The Boomtown? Is that the atomic blast?
Yeah, the Boomtown sequence, right? From the original draft.
That's right.
Yeah, no, those are fantastic. He
illustrated it.
Oh yeah, awesome. So people can not only hear about it, they can actually see what it would have looked like.
With sound effects and everything.
Oh, that's great, because I'm one of those I'm one of those Back to the Future nerds where when I sat in the theater and watched Crystal Skull and they had the Boomtown sequence where the nuclear bomb's going to go off, I thought this is just recycled from the original script of Back to the Future, where it was
you would know that. Most people would not know this. That's great.
Oh, I'm a complete nut about it. I'm working on an episode where I'm going to review the original draft of Back to the Future, where there was no DeLorean. It was a refrigerator.
Right. And they realized that kids would be going to time travel in refrigerators and suffocate in those. So they
And then the original ending.
Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, recycled that idea they had for the original Back to the Future in that Indiana Jones last film. In case people are trying to keep up with it here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the scene that coined the phrase "nuke the fridge," where it means the characters do something so ridiculous that it basically takes you out of the movie. When he survives that nuclear blast, it's completely ridiculous.
Yes, of course. But Marty was going to do that. What happened was that Marty finds the bomb test site and drives up the DeLorean at 88 miles per hour right underneath the bomb just as it's going down to give him the 21.1 gigawatts to get back to 85. Now, because they had shot for 7 or 8 weeks with Eric Stoltz and decided that since Michael had now become available, Family Ties let him come and shoot, that they would let go of Eric, but Sid Sheinberg or whoever was in charge of production at the studio at that time said, you have to cut $1 million out of your budget. And so they cut that whole location scene out in the desert and came up with the lightning hitting the clock tower to get the gigawatts.
Yeah, it's what I talk about on the show a lot. It's where budget constraints are what make directors more creative. They have to think outside the box. They can't just spend money. They do it now with CGI. Whatever you can imagine, they can create. But moving the sequence from the Nevada testing site to Hill Valley to the courthouse makes the town a character in the movie even more so than it was before, and really
Absolutely.
localizes all the action back where you're more familiar. Instead of like, oh, by the way, we're going to go do this outside of town. It's like, no, it all takes place in Hill Valley. And the one thing that's missing from all that is there was a subplot involving Coca-Cola being the catalyst for the time machine circuits. Do you remember that in the original script?
Gosh, no.
Yeah, in the original one, when Marty goes back in time, he spills Coca-Cola on the time circuits. So he does it.
Right.
Yeah, he does it again in the testing site when this is when it's a chamber, not when it's a DeLorean, and he ends up in 1985 in the middle of the desert, because he's not in Hill Valley. So he has to wait for Doc, who shows up in a flying, like, 50s Edsel car, and Doc picks him up because he knows he's going to be there at this certain time, like the Western Union telegram. And they fly back to Hill Valley, and Doc explains all that's happened, that there was a riot at the school after Marty played Johnny B. Good, and rock and roll has been outlawed, and everybody listens to Perry Como. It's a completely different ending. So cutting the budget.
Yeah, they have to be flexible to do all this rewriting. They probably were going nuts with that, Bob Gale and Bob Zemeckis.
Oh, I bet. It's a testament to how good writers both of them are, that they pulled it all together and made a masterpiece.
Absolutely. A lot of people, always ask me, oh, well, what are the things that haven't come to pass that the film predicted or what have you? And when they always say, yeah, we haven't got flying cars, I go, oh, but there was one in the 50s. There was a prototype of a boat car plane that was in that museum that unfortunately that burned in San Diego. But the wings would fold up and right on top of the car, and the wheels would extract up into the body and it'd seal up and it could go on water. I had pictures of this car flying, and
I think I've seen footage of that. There was at Interventions at Disneyland. They had something called the flying dinghy thingy, and I think that's what it was. I mean, it looked ridiculous, but it flew like the Spruce Goose,
Yeah.
So Andy Probert's going to be there, showing off the original ending that's been totally, PowerPointed, so it's visual and audio. I mean, that's fantastic.
Andrew also, was the ship designer on the Star Trek movies, the first Star Trek movie, and also on, I believe, Deep Space Nine, or, one Star Trek series. And we just found out that on this cruise, on the same ship at the same time, is one of the Star Trek conventions at sea. And they haven't been on the Oasis of the Sea for Royal Caribbean before, so this is new for them. And they're offering all of our Back to the Future fans, or, cruise passengers, free admission to all of their events. And it's kind of a give and take because Andrew worked on the Star Trek movie, so he'll be appreciated by all those fans. It's really going to be a great nerd fest.
And let's take a moment to acknowledge a ship big enough to hold two conventions.
Right.
That's
They're not looking to be that huge. I think our event is more on the intimate side. We so far only have about 30 or so passengers, and we will probably not get over 200. So it'll be very intimate.
Yeah, no, I've already got a friend who already bought a ticket.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, she's going, and I actually plan on buying my ticket later this summer. So I'm actually planning on going on this thing because I'll tell you, it's been 30 years since Back to the Future, hit theaters, it's been a cultural phenomenon ever since. And for me, it's been a lifelong love affair. And the one thing it's never had is a significant event of any kind. There've been small meetups in there, and I know that we're going back to a week-long thing, which I couldn't afford at the time, and they're doing it again this year. But as far as
Yes.
just getting the fans together with people who were in the movie, who worked on the movie, who can tell stories about the movie, because that's what everybody wants to hear. They want to hear the stuff they've never heard before.
And we have genuinely sweet, wonderful people coming. Frances Lee McCain, who played Stella Baines, Lorraine's mom, she's coming, and she has worked on so many great films. For you, as being a fan of the iconic films, she was the mom in Footloose and in Gremlins. She worked on Patch Adams. She was on Broadway and played again Sam, Woody Allen's piece. She's got amazing talent and is a sweetheart and great stories to share. As well, Mark McClure, who played Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movies, with the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, he played Dave McFly. And he's going to be playing drums. I'm putting the band back together, as Mark likes to say. We're going to restage the Enchantment Under the Sea dance on the cruise. And I got Harry Waters Jr., Marvin Berry, Chuck's cousin in the films, to come on board. He's going to sing Earth Angel, and we're going to play Johnny B. Good. I'm going to play some guitar. Mark's going to be on drums, and Don Fullilove, who played Mayor Goldie Wilson, will be on bass.
That's fantastic. That's like a Back to the Future fan's dream come true. Like that, because I've always said on my show, there's a reoccurring theme where, since I try to break into movie sets and I go to movie locations, there's always this need to try to make the movie physically real to yourself. And this cruise sounds like, for a Back to the Future fan, the ultimate way to celebrate 30 years of this movie by becoming part of the film. I mean, you're going to have a recreation of the dance with the people from the cast playing in the band. That's fantastic.
Yes, and we have folk coming from all over. I've got a booking from South America, and a gentleman, a fan, is coming from England with his father who has Parkinson's. On the Parkinson's front, I'm doing a workshop on board. I'm speaking with the leading research scientists at the Buck Institute and the Scripps Institute to find the latest information on progress towards a cure. In fact, at the Buck, this one scientist has induced Parkinson's in these lab worms and has been able to cure the Parkinson's by replacing a protein in their cells.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so promising.
It is, and we'll have a PowerPoint presentation, if not the scientists themselves, to discuss these things. And I'm hoping, if he can't, be on the cruise, at least he can come to our launching or come for a day and fly him home from our stop in Jamaica. Hoping that Michael is considering coming. It's really, the sky's the limit right now. We're just trying to get the word out. Though we need to have bookings, I think, solid by August, because we have our deposits on our room reservations, our cabins and all. And I believe they all have to be solid by August. So I just want to tip you off, if you're planning to come, at least put your deposit down.
Okay, by August. So yeah, I'll make sure in the show notes that all the pertinent websites are linked there, so you can find it pretty easily. And I looked at the site; it's very easy to navigate.
Yeah, we've had a couple people though still try to book directly through their travel agents to the cruise line, and you really have to book through our travel agent, because he's the one that will be issuing your badge. You can't get into any of the events without the official badge, and or get the special things. I've got a cruise T-shirt, a pocket flux capacitor, and autographed pictures that all come along with the cruise as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So the key thing to pick up there is, if you want to take a cruise and be left out of all these festivities, then book for your local travel agent. If you want to take the cruise and actually be involved in the Back to the Future events and the Star Trek events, then you got to go through the official Back to the Future cruise website.
Yes. And I'm also working right now on the night before the cruise. I'm hoping that we can get the Fort Lauderdale Film Festival to screen 2 new films. One, Christopher Lloyd's The Boat Builder, which I actually play a support role in, and Leah Thompson's The Wrong Side of Right. I'm trying to be the liaison between those 2 films in the film festival to get them to screen the night before we cruise, since we're leaving from Fort Lauderdale, and that's their opening night. We're keeping our fingers crossed that we're going to make that work. So
that'd be a nice partnership.
Yeah, and hopefully we get Leah and Chris both to be there as well and do a mixer the night before the cruise.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I mean, again, it's everything that we've wanted as Back to the Future fans for the last 30 years is just, a acknowledgement of what the film means to everybody, and not just Blu-ray releases or the replicas that they put out and such. It's taken 30 years for anything of merit to actually happen with the film series. Universal did their part by, shutting down the ride. So we don't have anything to congregate around, other than we're all going to be at the mall October 26th up in Puente Hills,
Yeah. And also we've got a bunch of DeLorean owners who are coming on the cruise. So there'll be a DeLorean owners or DeLorean club meeting. on
that's great.
It'll be fun for everyone. Let's see. We also have Dean Cundy is scheduled to be on board. He was a cinematographer not only for the Back to the Future movies, but he shot Jurassic Park and many other iconic movies.
And doesn't
he's
he have?
A sweetheart of a man.
He has a cameo in the film, Part 3, right?
That's right. He's the photographer in Part 3 in the Old West.
Yeah, he's the guy that takes the iconic picture of Doc and Marty at the clock.
At the clock. Yes.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So it's all encompassing. Well, I hope that it works out. I hope that everybody listens, because my show's heard, around the world. So I hope that everybody listens and is interested in this, really takes it to heart and wants to not only take part in a fantastic Back to the Future event, but also
we're to be found at bttfcruise.com or Back to the Future Cruise or Back to the Future Cruise to End Parkinson's or cruise to endparkinsons.com. All of those web addresses take you to the same place. And if you can't join the cruise, you can also at least be represented by your donation to our Team Fox page, and that's on the links page on that website.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, Team Fox has really stepped it up in the last few years as far as courting the Back to the Future fans. I know that I donated $20 to take my picture in the Part 3 car at the Profiles in History booth. I think you were there as well at Comic-Con.
Oh, at the San Diego Comic-Con a couple of years ago, yes.
Yeah.
Were you there the day with Billy Zane?
No, I don't. I was there all the days, so yes and no. It's a massive place.
One day I was there with the car at the Profiles in History with the car before they auctioned it off. One day with Claudia Wells, who was Jennifer Parker in the first film, and the next day with Billy Zane, who was Matchstick.
Yes, no, I was there the day you were there with Claudia Wells.
Very good. She's a sweetheart.
Because you gave my daughter a balloon animal.
Oh, yes. That was one of the benefits from working in theme parks. Learning how to make rubber amusements for the children.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Weissman, it's been fantastic talking with you. As a Back to the Future fan, it's an honor to speak with somebody who was actually a part of that huge, massive pop culture explosion that has defined my life as an adult.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, Jeff. And I'd like to come back and talk about other projects as I have them coming out. I've just shot a sci-fi project that I just saw a rough cut of, and it's fantastic, called The Traveler. And I'm always working. I've been playing Mark Twain recently, and never a dull moment. I'm also, of course, promoting this cruise, so I'm showing up at a lot of fan cons. I've recently been at the Gallifrey one, the Doctor Who convention.
Oh, yeah, the Gallifrey Con, sure. I couldn't get a ticket. It sells out every year.
It was amazing. The cosplayers there are so fantastic.
Yeah,
and so into it.
They're top notch.
And I was just at Wizard World Comic-Con in Las Vegas. WonderCon before that will be hopefully at Sacramento Wizard World, and various other cons. So take a look for me. I'm usually there with a Time Machine DeLorean. And I should plug both tothefuture.org, my friends Terry and Oliver Holler, who have now raised over $250,000 for Team Fox.
Wow.
Who have taken their home-built time machine to all 50 states. Really great people. And yes, the We're Going Back event, where they go to all the locations for the Back to the Future movies, is also a Team Fox fundraiser.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
You can see them at we'regoingback.com.
Yeah, when I went house hunting 6 years ago, the first house I tried to buy was Marty's house. Even though it's way too far from where I work, you have to take a shot at it, you know?
Yeah. And then you'd have to live with obsessive fans showing up at all hours.
Yeah, well, I would have been, I'm one of you. Come on in. Now, real quick, before you go, this is too funny. I'm looking at your IMDb page. You were on Max Headroom, the TV show.
Yes, on the Rakers episode.
I was going to say,
on another one. You're
on the Rakers episode. That's the only episode I have like a vivid memory of, where they're on skateboards with metal blades.
Right. I was in the office working with Jeffrey Tambor, the control center.
Yeah, Channel 23, right?
That's right.
Oh, that's so funny. What a small world. And it's just so, it's so fun to be enveloped in pop culture and see how the connections are made and who's done what and who's in this and that and connect the dots. That's my forte. It's what I like to do.
I've got another one for you. A year after Back to the Future came out, Stan Vergotti, who was a big director there in the 80s, got hired to direct a Back to the Future parody Cherry Coke commercial. And you can find this on YouTube. And I got cast as one of the 50s greasers in it, with Victoria Jackson on roller skates at the drive-in where he gets the Cherry Coke in his DeLorean.
Oh, my gosh. I think I remember that, because the whole Cherry Coke ad campaign was built on nostalgia because it hadn't been available since the 50s.
Right.
Oh, that's hysterical. Well, I'll find that and put it on my Facebook page for 91 Reasons.
Ironically, Pepsi is the drink of choice of the films.
Oh, yeah, Cherry Pepsi, right? Not Coke. Cherry Pepsi. Oh, that's so funny. Well, well, thanks for talking to me, sir, and I can't wait to see how the cruise turns out. And if I get to aboard ship, I will definitely say hi and do some interviews while I'm on board.
We'll have a great time. I look forward to it, Jeff. Thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely. Thanks for contacting me.
I'll see you in the future.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
How about that? Is that not the coolest thing ever? What a great guy, and what a cool thing to put all his time and effort into this a fascinating event to support ending Parkinson's. It's the coolest thing ever. So I'm looking at the website for the Back to the Future cruise, and if you want to check it out yourself, there's a number of links that'll get you there. You can go to bttfcruise.com, cruise2endparkinsons.com, backtothefuturecruise.com, or backtothefuturecruise2endparkinsons.com. So any flavor of that will get you, or just go to Google and type in Back to the Future Cruise. It'll come right up. But he's put together a really cool event. And if you're a Back to the Future fan, or a nut like I am, they're going to have Lorraine's mom. She was also in Gremlins. Mark McClure, his brother, Marty's brother, who was also in Superman, who was very nice to us at WonderCon. He'll be there, obviously. George McFly from parts 2 and 3. Harry Waters Jr., who played Marvin Berry, is going to sing Earth Angel. What an out-of-body moment that will be. Dean Cundy, who was the director of photography and also the photographer in part 3, who took the picture. Ricky Dean Logan, who was in Griff's gang. Don Fullilove, who played Goldie. Mayor Goldie Wilson himself is going to be there. Kevin Pike, who did special effects. Andy Probert, who designed a lot of the Time Machine effects, the physical parts of the DeLorean, the chamber before the DeLorean. Him along with, now Ron Cobb won't be there. I'm not even sure if Ron Cobb is still alive, but those guys are the ones that really made the look of the time machine and the time slices, which are just as important of how does it travel through time? What does that look like? Because even when you talk about the film Bob and the two Bobs, even they weren't really sure, like, what is it going to look like when the DeLorean goes through time? So the itinerary, they're going to go from Fort Lauderdale to a private island off of Haiti, and then Jamaica, and then Mexico, and then back to Florida. Like, it's 8 days. Wow, what a trip. And it's actually not that expensive. I looked at the prices. It's very affordable. Like, if you were going to go on a cruise anyways, why wouldn't you go on a Back to the Future cruise? I mean, I know I would, and I'm planning on it. If everything with my house sale goes through, I will be on this. And not only is there a Back to the Future event, which he said, if you listened, was going to be kind of intimate with, like, are you kidding? Like 200 people? Like, that's nobody. Like, you're going to be able to wine and dine with these people and get to know them. Like, it's not just going to be a press the flesh meet and greet. Like, it's going to be, you are on a ship with these people for days. And that sounds great, because it's a cruise anyways. If you're done with Back to the Future by day 4, which I can't imagine that you would be, there's still a whole ship. It's the oasis of the sea. Like, it's this massive floating city, and it's so big. They're going to have a Star Trek, I mean, you heard me talk about a Star Trek convention on the other end. And then the Back to the Future badge will get you into the Star Trek convention. Like, that's like Comic-Con at sea. That sounds like so much fun. I really hope this thing goes off. I'd love to be a part of it. What fun it sounds like it's going to be on a giant ship with not only, and forget it, don't think of it just as the celebrities that are going to be there or the people that worked on the movie, but imagine, like, I've talked about what the con experience is, and this is the con experience distilled down even further, because you're on a ship for over a week with people who are obsessed with the same movie that you're obsessed with. It's like we can talk back. No, they're not going to tell you on this, look, please stop talking about Back to the Future. The people are going to go, no, we have more to talk about. What trivia did you know? Who have you met? Where have you been? You know the locations? Oh, you're in the movie? Whatever. I mean, it just sounds like a really fun, once-in-a-lifetime event. And since it's 2015, it's 30 years since Back to the Future came out. This is the year. Like, I've waited my whole life for this so that they'd have all these kinds of events and the merchandise and the stuff that's finally, like, the promise is finally there of making Back to the Future tangible, because it just hasn't been the case. Universal Studios Hollywood closed the ride, so you can't go over there to go on the ride, and some of the locations have been torn down or rebuilt or changed. So being able to recapture that magic, and isn't that really what it's about? Isn't it about, like, reaching back and shaking hands with your teenage self and going, hey, remember that cool movie you saw? We're gonna walk through the screen. And we're gonna make it real. And that's what I've always wanted to do. All of my trips, sneaking onto the Back to the Future sets and such, or driving out to the mall in the middle of the night, or trying to buy Marty's house. Like, it's just trying to make the movie more. And this is a great thing. And you only have to put $50 down by May 15th to secure your spot. So I think that's really cool. That's next week. So if you're thinking about going on this cruise, go to bttfcruise.com. I'll put the links on Facebook. I'll put the links in the show notes. $50 secures your spot. Like, that's nothing. That's the price of a really good Blu-ray set. And instead, you're going to get a week of Back to the Future. Now, you got to pay the rest of it, obviously, but, mow some lawns, do some chores around the house, and I'm sure we'll figure a way to go. So, as it gets closer, and he said that August was going to be the cutoff date, as it gets closer, I will let you know, because I do plan on doing everything I can to go on this cruise and get the goodies and meet the people and meet the fans and try to do some interviews for the show. And if you go to the website, what's really cool is in the top right, they have a counter counting down 185 days, 3 hours, 40 minutes, and at this point, 53 seconds until the cruise takes off. So the clock is ticking. And unlike Doc Brown, you don't have a time machine. So if you miss it, you will not get a second chance. Biff will take the almanac, go on the cruise without you, and change the future. So this is your chance. Have I plugged it enough? Yes. No. I have. So again, massive thanks to Jeffrey Weissman. What a cool guy. Fellow Back to the Future nerd. I mean, he said he's as much a fan as anybody's, and he's in the movie. And he's been in theme parks. He's worked in theme parks like me. So we're practically the same person. We spell our name the same. He's not Jeffrey. He's Jeffrey like me. Jeffrey. He's the only other guy I've ever met like that. And now watch, there's 35 people on Facebook page. My name is spelled that way. There's always a way to do it. So thanks for checking out this special episode. Hope you check out the cruise. And if you want to go, if you want to join Tim and Monique on the Back to the Future cruise, you can. And thanks for listening to this special episode of 91 Reasons.
Just a fool in love with you.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?
Is that my mom? Is that my mom?
Marty.
Oh, hey, princess.
Hi, son.
Dad, what the hell happened? You throw your back out again?
Oh, I was out on the golf course.
Dad, I told you to watch that backswing.
No, he was hit by a car. It just fell out of the sky. He could have been killed.
And I was 2 under par.
I don't know what this world is coming to. Marty, how was work?
Oh, Mom, I'm telling you, that big promotion is just around the corner. Anyway, I'm starving. Let's eat. Come on, son, let's go. It's dinner time.
Dad, I'm watching these programs.
Mister, we eat at the dinner table when your grandparents are here. Put your damn glasses on, huh?
Dad.
I can only watch 2 shows at once on these things. Yeah, you kids really got it rough. I was your age. I wanted to watch 2 shows at once. I had to put 2 sets next to each other.